everyone. Today's video is titled How the 2024 Election Will Affect Multifamily Apartment Investing. Now, I'll preface this by saying this is not a political video. This isn't trying to say that one side should win over the other or that one side will be better for multifamily apartment investing over the other. It's more so to talk about the repercussions of the election being over. I've heard a lot of people talking about waiting to see what happens with the election before making investing decisions. And it all kind of plays in together. So I'm going to talk about some of those effects today. The first one we have is the dust will settle on the economy. So what I mean by this is that I'm a big proponent that people look at what's going to potentially happen in the future in order to make their investing decisions. So when people are generally bullish that the market is going to go up, buyers will tend to maybe overpay for properties. Sellers may list at higher prices or be sticky and not necessarily take lower offers, and vice versa. When people are pessimistic or bearish on the market, buyers may sit on the sidelines, sellers may take lower prices. So it all depends on the perception of where the market is heading. Now, what we have in this election cycle, and pretty much every election cycle that's happened, is conflicting points of views, especially as it pertains to the economy. So you have one side right now that is saying the economy is robust, that inflation has been tamed, jobs are growing, and they're at solid numbers. And then you have another side that is saying that the complete opposite, that we're in free fall, the economy is about to fall off a cliff. We have a migration crisis that is going to cause, a 1929 Great Depression level recession. So they're very conflicting points of view, and depending on where you get your news from, the people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, your friend circle, you may have your own opinion, but it's very muddied at the moment. And what the election will actually do is it'll allow the dust to settle. You won't see any more political advertising after November 5th. A lot of the true facts of where the economy stands will come to light, and you'll get a more consensus on potentially where values should be, whether they're going to go up, down, or sideways. Right now, everything is there's a lot of tension. It's highly conflicting. The information being presented by both sides is there to paint their own narrative. So my belief is that the dust will settle on where the economy really stands post-election. And it may not be on November 6th. It may not be even November. It may take a couple of months, maybe even into 2025 to play out. But that is something to look out for, is the economy will show its true colors once the election actually finishes. Next one is affordable housing. So this topic actually came up in the vice presidential debate between JD Vance and Tim Walz, and it was actually interesting to hear them talk about it. And there was a lot of agreement, actually, the first and foremost, that we need affordable housing in this country. Now, if you haven't been following too closely, a lot of development is happening all across the country, but it is primarily luxury product. It's high end, it's targeted towards the wealthier subset of the renter population. And the reason is because it doesn't pencil out to build affordable housing as it stands right now. Land costs are high. Cost of materials have been high, especially since the pandemic. Labor costs have gone up. So there is no money to be made. In fact, they'll be making a loss, a lot of developers, if they were just building affordable housing on their land. They need to build luxury housing in order to make the numbers pencil out. So what you have now is a glut of luxury product coming on the market, and you still have a lot of pressure on the affordable housing market where there just isn't enough housing in the affordable range to go around. So some of the solutions that could come from this, JD Vance talked about giving federal land to developers to solely for the purpose of developing affordable housing. It was interesting. I was just having a conversation with a Miami developer this past week, and he actually develops affordable housing. I was very intrigued by this because you don't come across a lot of developers who develop affordable housing. And I asked him, I was like, what's your secret sauce? How are you able to develop affordable housing when others aren't? And, I was hoping he would say something along the lines of, hey, I've got this technique with construction, or he gets some materials on a large cheap basis. But no, it was just he gets the land at a low cost basis, and that was how he was able to develop affordable housing. So the land plays a huge role, and if the government does subsidize or even give away federal land in order to have affordable housing be built, that could be one way that some of the pressure could be relieved. The other thing that I've noticed, which is actually happening as we speak, is Section 8 is starting to become more and more desirable. I don't think it was particularly newsworthy, but vouchers for Section 8 rentals have been going up, and there's actually been a divergence to market rents, I should say. So if you're seeing market rents of around $900, you might see Section 8 vouchers reaching 11 or even $1,200 per month, which is completely changing the way that we look at Section 8. It used to be that, hey, maybe we didn't want to invest in a Section 8 building. It may have a stigma around it, but now it could be the case that investors are actually looking for Section 8 buildings because they pay a premium in monthly rents, and that, of course, drives value as well. So we'll see what happens on the affordable housing front. Even though the Democrats are currently in power, they don't have Congress on their side, so they're not able to really push anything through the past year. And of course, the Republicans have, some plans in place to, if they do take office, to help the affordable housing crisis. So both sides are looking to do something. What that exactly will be remains to be seen. But it is definitely something that can only happen once the election is actually done with. Number three is jobs growth and wage increases. So I am a big proponent of the fact that you can have a building where rents are consistently going up, market rents are going up, but if your tenant base cannot support that those rent increases, then it's basically worthless. The past few years, we've had inflation, so the costs of goods for the middle and working class, cost of goods for everyone, but it definitely affects the working and middle class a lot more. Groceries, gas, everything you need to live really has gone up, and wages have seemed to be stagnant. So that doesn't leave much left over for housing, and that's exacerbated the affordable housing crisis that we currently see. But if we have a new administration come in and jobs are continually able to grow and wages, more importantly, are able to go up, then that will be a positive news, a positive sign for multifamily apartment investors. It means that, hey, we do have the freedom to increase rents on our places and therefore increase the values. But without wage increases, if the tenant base is struggling to get by, then that means that multifamily apartment values will be stagnant or even go down. So that's something that as an investor you need to watch, especially in your area, especially in your building. If you're screening tenants for their income, look at that ratio of what they're making versus the rent that you're charging, because if that ratio gets too high, you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some delinquencies, especially if the economy does fall into a recession. The last one we have is monetary policy. Now, the Fed should be independent of the government. So you could say that, hey, they live in a bubble. Nothing the government does, whether it's an election or a new administration coming to power, should affect anything. But the truth is, everything is inextricably linked. Um, the monetary policy has been a hot talking point so far. And in this election cycle, we had the first drop in interest rates in September, curiously 2 months before the election, and it was a significant drop as well. Typically, the Fed will, I don't like to use the word leak, but they don't want to cause any surprises in the market. So any rate increases or decreases, or whether they stay the same after a meeting, it'll usually be known, so they don't upset the markets. Whether they go up a quarter point, it'll be expected. There's usually no surprises. Coming into September's meeting, this was actually one that I haven't seen in a while, where no one really knew whether they were going to cut interest rates by a quarter point or a half point. And there's a lot of theories and opinions what one would mean over the other. And they chose to go the heavier route of a 0.5% drop. So those on the right would argue that, some would argue cynically that, hey, this is 2 months before an election. They go for a very aggressive drop. They're placating towards the Democrats. But even if you just look at it from an economic standpoint, half a point drop is pretty significant and may actually signal that the economy is in worse shape than we're led to believe. So what will be the monetary policy going forward? That remains to be seen. There will not be another Fed meeting before the election. I think it actually happens a couple of days after the election. Of course, we're expecting rates to continue coming down. The worst thing that could potentially happen is that inflation starts to climb back up, and we have to put a halt or even increase interest rates to retain that inflation. So that was a talking point about the monetary policy and interest rates, is that the worst thing the Fed could do is lower rates too early, and when inflation wasn't completely under control. But that goes back to the first point. The dust will settle. There shouldn't be any political gamesmanship going on. It should be just purely, hey, what is best for the economy? So those are a few ways that the election will affect multifamily apartment investing. It's not necessary that one side wins over the other, although there are some nuances there. But just the election being over could actually change or affect the market in a positive or negative way. So love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment of what you think could happen, and we'll see you next week.